Hello and welcome back to another ProGuides video. With the new patch releasing in the upcoming week, it's time to take a look on how the current meta looks. In today's video, we're here to talk about which are the best comps this patch. These are the comps that have been incredibly strong in higher elo and have been consistent in winning games. Make sure to review our tier list as well for in-depth explanations on not only the best ones, but also the worst ones for synergies, items, and champions. At the end of this video, we will also be going over some of the upcoming changes in the next patch. Before we begin, remember to click our link below in our description to see more in-depth guides, builds, and ways to win you your next games. There are many courses designed by pro players within the top 1% of the game to teach you the meta and how to effectively climb up the ladder. So if you want to get into the top 4 of your games, then go to ProGuides.com today and we will see you there. Without any further ado, let's discuss the current meta. Number 1 on our list is Wild Assassins. The comp is arguably the strongest in the meta right now. The comp is fairly low cost to make as it requires only 2 epics. Wild has gotten quite the buff with not only a higher attack speed, but also a complete counter to yordles and dodge items. On the other hand, Assassins got a balance where they crit more often, making them dangerous with a wild combination as they can no longer miss. In this comp, not only are all units good, but Akali and Gnar are just monsters in the field. Akali got a slight increase in attack speed, and with the change in components for Infinity Edge, the item with Akali has just been frighteningly strong. Stack a few Infinity Edges on Akali, and now you have her one-hit KOing everyone. On the other hand, Gnar with Warmogs, Dragon Claw, Guinsus, and many different item variations just makes him unkillable as a unit. His CC destroys the enemy's positioning, allowing your assassins to jump freely to kill all backline units. This is the comp that you're guaranteed to see in any high MMR lobby. Some variations can also be ran with this comp. You can go for Shapeshifters and Dragons by adding Shyvana and Aurelion to the comp. With this path, you can even try to run Ahri as part of your wild build so that you could go for Sorcerers as your 9th unit. On the other hand, you can run Shapeshifters and Hextech, which would be Jace and Vi. In this scenario, you would keep Warwick instead of Ahri so you can also get a Brawler's buff. Rengar, Nidalee, and Gnar are a must in this composition though. We'll be releasing an in-depth guide soon for this specific comp so you know what items, champions, and positions to look out for. Moving on to number 2, Imperial Knights. Knights got the tankiness and Imperials got the damage. Together, they are quite a force to be reckoned with. Knights is great because of their early game potential. If you get your Garen, Darius, and Mordekaiser to level 2, you're pretty set in keeping your health pretty high during the early game. This can easily carry you to the late game where you can find your Draven who becomes your main source of damage. By putting 2 Knights in the back line, 1 to the left corner and 1 to the right corner, Draven receives a lot of protection from Blitzcranks in a Brawler's build or Assassins jumping onto him. Like all top comps, a few variations can be done with this build. First is 6 Knights and then a Kindred and Draven, which procs both Imperial and Phantom. Damage is lacking slightly in this comp, but if you position correctly, your Draven can slowly kill everyone off. If you get yourself to 9 units, you can also add in an Ashe to get Rangers and Glacial buff in there. The issue with this comp is that it does rely on a good Phantom target and also for the 50% chance that the Imperial buff goes onto your Draven. Thus, the next option to run is 4 Knights, 4 Imperials, and 3 Blademasters. This guarantees the damage output to be insane while also providing a fair amount of armor to everyone. This comp does rely on finding the legendary Swain to complete though, so we always recommend building for the first option unless you find a Swain. Now on to number 3 on our best comp list is Hextech Brawlers. Yep, that's right, they're finally back into the meta this patch. Blitzcrank and Jinx both received a buff last patch that makes them one of the best duos in the game. Blitzcrank does more damage now, making it easier to kill the unit he pulls. This gives Jinx a quick buff to get her to start attacking quicker and using her rocket launcher. Having both a Blitzcrank and Hextech also confuses the opponent a lot. Many times with so many other players, it becomes more difficult for them to position against your composition. This means that there's a high chance your Blitzcrank will be able to pull a carry or the Hextech will land on multiple units. Even when you get to the top 4 and your opponents begin to play around Hextech, there's still a great chance it'll land on something that will carry you to victory. Stacking items on a unit is common in every single build, and there's always a GA frontliner somewhere within your enemies. So disable that Guardian Angel on that Sejuani or Kennen, and now they can't stun your entire team. Besides these 2 units, Vi and Volibear also received buffs this patch. They both received increased health, and Vi does more damage now, while Volibear attacks quicker. So overall, this comp received a fairly large buff as most units all got a bit stronger. Some other variations of this comp is Sorcerers Brawlers, which uses Twisted Fate as a carry. There's a lot higher of a chance for Twisted Fate to use his blue cards, which allows all the units to ult quicker. It's a lot harder to pull off though, since it does get countered by Shapeshifters. Moving on to number 4, we have Elemental Ninjas. Ninja's buff on giving plus 70% attack damage and ability power is just insane, whereas Elementals has always been powerful in the metas. Combine with both, and you have one of the best comps in the game. As mentioned before, Akali is such a powerhouse that she is in two of the best compositions right now. Akali and Zed are two ninjas already, so it's not too hard to find a third assassin to add into the comp to make Elementals, ninjas, and assassins. Additionally, Lissandra and Kennen is also incredibly strong in the meta right now. A GA on Kennen is a great counter towards wild assassins, as he can CC every single unit. On the other hand, stacking items on Lissandra is great against Knights comp. Knights lack damage, so Lissandra can just ult over and over again as it slowly kills off all Knights as well. As for your third Elementalist, you can run Brand for extra damage or Anivia to get a tier 1 Glacial into your composition. Overall, this comp is incredibly balanced with the right amount of CC, lots of damage, and a tanky golem. The reason we have Elemental Ninjas ranked less than the others is because this comp is a lot harder to achieve and transition into. It's always awkward to hold all those ninjas until you find your Akali. You need to balance your health and have other units that can keep you from dying. However, if you're able to find all of them, the power spike is extraordinary. Next up on our list is number 5, Gunslingers and Blademasters. The great thing about this composition is that there is just so much damage from the start. Most units are fairly low cost, so if you're able to find this comp early, like a level 2 Lucian or Tristana, then you have a very high chance to go on a winning streak. Gunslingers and Blademasters does require very specific items to get you to the late game though. Thus, if you're going for it, make sure to hard commit and start looking for crucial items for this build. Hush and Red Buff are two of the most important items. Stopping your opponents from healing and from using their abilities is key to winning in this build. Unlike other comps, you don't have to worry about finding too many legendaries or epics. Yasuo, Jinx, and Draven are great additions to this composition, but you can suffice throughout the majority of the game without them. Unlike a comp like Wild Assassin, where you definitely need Gnar in order for your build to work, there's a lot of Blademasters and Gunslingers to play around with until you find the best units for the composition. Riot has also confirmed a new buff for Gunslingers where their extra shots will go from 1, 2, 3 to 1, 3, 5 shots, so we expect this composition to rise significantly to the top next patch. Be sure to check your lobbies so you're not going against 4 players running a Knights build. This comp is great against Shapeshifters but will have a tougher time against Knights. Lastly is number 6, which is simply any variations of Shapeshifters. Shapeshifters has been strong in the last patch, and that has not changed. Running Wild Shapeshifters, Demon Shapeshifters, or even Sorcerer Shapeshifters is completely viable. There's so many different units and synergies that you can mix and match with. After the change where they can now transform quicker, Shapeshifters make for great tanky units that can also deal out massive amounts of damage. That was it for our list, but there are 2 other comps to mention, which are Rangers and Void Assassins. Both comps were incredibly strong last patch, but has become very underwhelming in the current state. This doesn't mean that they're unusable, but they tend to not be worth it due to the immense amount of counters or the difficulty in achieving it. Knights and Assassins counter Rangers, while Void Assassins require either Cho'Gath or Kai'Sa now. Knights and a level 3 Vayne is likely what is seen most often along with a Kindred to support the comp. However, Ashe is rarely seen in the top 4 anymore. On the other hand, Void Assassins was very dependent on the low-cost units, so the criteria of requiring an epic or legendary just causes players to lose too much health during the early game. Kai'Sa is expected to get a buff next patch though, so we'll see if that turns the tide once again. Her bonus attack speed is going to increase significantly from 30, 60, 90% to 50, 75, 100%. She will also be receiving a larger shield with plus 100 more than what she is getting currently. Speaking of a Kai'Sa buff, here are also some of the upcoming synergies changes that are live in PBE right now that we expect to change the meta once again. Guardians will be getting an armor boost from 35 to 45. On the other hand, Knights will be getting their armor nerfed from 65 to 60 when you achieve 6 Knights. Wild will get their attack speed lowered from 12% to 10%. Assassins will have less critical chance from 10, 25, 30 to 5, 15, 30. And Gunslingers, as mentioned, will be able to attack more targets in range. All seems to be fairly minor balances in terms of the nerfs right now, but we think this would be a great chance to allow other synergies to shine next patch. Again, this is just in PBE right now, but we're excited to share the official new patch with you in a few days. And that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. 9.19 has changed the meta all over again with new items and balances. Are you guys enjoying the current meta with these comps being favorable? Or are there any favorite comps of yours that we missed? Let us know in the comments below. As always, we read each and every one of your comments, and we're also aiming to get to 10,000 subs, so be sure to like and subscribe, and we hope to see you all next time.